What's up, everybody? We have a verdict in the Robert Tellez trial. Let's get to it. So we are live in the courtroom. Let me make sure we're live. Yes, we are. And as soon as it starts, we will start. So I got to know what you guys think. How surprised are you at how long this took? Kelsey, if you can put up a poll. If not, did this take longer or shorter than you expected? I guess I should say the timing of the verdict. Was it longer or shorter or exactly what you expected? Because to me, this was a lot longer than I expected. And I watched closing arguments again back after knowing that it took as long as it did for the jury to come to their verdict, and was trying to figure out what are they stuck over. I saw some tweets last night and I kind of agreed with them. It has to be, the profile of the person in the truck didn't look like him, things like that. And when I went back and watched the closings again, I really don't feel like the state dealt with the defense's best argument that there were 67 plus cars similar, and they showed some profiles of people that looked like they had hair. I know everybody was telling me on Twitter that was his hoodie pulled over his face and tied tight. And all of that information to me is fine that you have a way to explain it, but the jury asked for ways to zoom in. They asked for laptops and things that would look like they were going to compare pictures or videos side by side. Yeah, Elif said, I'm curious to hear from the jurors. I'd like to know why it took so long. I agree. And my guess would be they were comparing things, right? It was wild. Like, this was one of those cases where it's like, well, there was no DNA under your fingernails, but you don't need to have that for a case like this. But we did have that. The matching clothes, the matching walk, the matching build, the matching car. Even some of the defense's arguments nuked, like the matching rims, and potentially the conspiracy that really never made a lot of sense and involved way too many people for the lack of connections they had. And it was just felt like it was throwing it up against the wall. But the jury obviously saw something. And this is why people are presumed innocent. Presumed innocent until proven guilty, right? Because the state has to prove it. And if they can't prove it, and if it could have been somebody else, then he should be not guilty. Okay? He could have put a wig on, somebody said. Yeah, he could have done a lot of things, but the jury's got to disprove all the reasonable doubts. The jury has to connect all the dots. The jury has to plug all the holes. So the poll is up. We'll get the results here in a minute. I thought this was going to be one of the quickest guilty verdicts from the evidence I saw, the arguments I saw made, the defendant himself testifying. I thought there were some kinds of issues with the case, maybe not perfect. I do think they have a lot of evidence against him. But when he testified, I thought, that was tough. Adam said, for me, it's the clothes under the couch. Yeah, like a horrible hiding spot. But his only argument to that was like, well, if I was going to do this myself, I wouldn't be so dumb. Reese's mom said the stuff under the couch. Yeah. I mean, especially the shoes where it's like, you can tell those are the same exact shoes. It's really, really interesting to me. And no surprise, thousands of votes coming in. 80+% say this was longer than they expected. 6% thought it was shorter. 14% thought it was just right. In case you don't know what's going on here, Robert Tellez, former public administrator, was charged with and tried for ending the life of a reporter who brought out some corruption in his office, some potential negative acts towards his employees, and a potential affair, an extramarital affair. He's married with a kid. So obviously he didn't want that to come out. Nobody wanted that to come out. If you're Robert Tellez, of course. And he ends up losing the election. And then the reporter loses his life and Tellez is charged. Obvious motive, but then the clothes and the walk and the video and everything they have, to me, kind of lines up with it being Robert Tellez. And his big explanation is it was a big conspiracy. Everybody did this to frame him because a big realty group wanted him out because he was not allowing them to make a bunch of money, basically. KY Heather, and I see a lot of people saying Birchmore video later. Yes, we're actually going to redirect from this video to a Birchmore video My dad is also going to come on to break it down because it's federal charges. So I want to get him involved a little bit in that. That is absolutely insane. I read the indictment. I haven't watched the press conference. We'll probably watch the press conference together, but I've also been reading the federal affidavit from the FBI agent, and appalling stuff, appalling to think how long it's taken them to get to this point. We'll talk about all that. In the next video, though. I thought it was a slam dunk guilty, but I appreciate they took the time to go through everything. I agree. I'm never really going to fault a jury for taking more time, right? Take more time. Make sure your people are saying I'm behind. If I'm behind, it's by like a second. But yeah. Scott, if Robert Tellis is acquitted and jumps for joy, he would still only reach 5'8". This comes from he's 6'5", but still wears lifts in his shoes. But he's actually 5'6". Justice for the German family. Yes, absolutely. Hot tip. Don't hide stuff in your house. I mean, if you've committed a crime and the only explanation you can have for why it was done so badly is it couldn't have possibly been me, it must be a frame job, your defense is not doing well. Thank you, Francis, for gifting a membership, and Kim as well. Too much physical evidence. You would have to believe the conspiracy theory in order to find him not guilty. I agree. You'd have to believe they put somebody else in that car that matches his, that red SUV, drives to the house. They pick somebody with a similar build. I think the jury was trying to line up the videos of him walking, because that was a big one for me when I saw the way the killer walked and the way he walked. Obviously the size, things like that. Forget about obviously the stuff under the couch, but there was so much physical evidence that I agree connected him to this. Thanks, Dragon Breath. How long were they in deliberations? Was it like 2 days-ish? Does anybody have the exact hour count? Is it here on the video? No. Somebody in the chat will have this answer, D-Dub. I suggested listening to TELLES narrative to Slimy. Oh, I struggled. Sorry, not suggested. Yeah, I didn't struggle. I found it fascinating, personally. I found it fascinating to see what he was going to do, how he was going to explain this. Did his wife divorce him, or is she supporting? So that's a question I don't know. I don't know really any background information to this. So somebody else in the chat may know that as well. 20 hours, somebody said deliberating. Somebody said 12, 13, 10. It's a couple days. Definitely a couple days. Thank you so much for covering the Birchmore case. It's devastating. I hope for justice, but Massachusetts is so corrupt. Well, a lot of people seem to think the FBI was on the right side of the Karen Reed trial, and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office has stepped into the Sarah Birchmore case. We are going to talk a lot about that in the next video. I did think his defense attorney was pretty good. Guilty, though. I actually did think it was a good closing argument for what you had to deal with, and that's the point. Defense attorneys have what they have. We have the facts in the case and the client that are here, and you got to do the best with what you can, and that's what he did. The jury had questions for almost every witness during testimony, so I'm not surprised at the length of deliberation. Yeah, I appreciate juries like that personally. I really do. Okay. Azam, Peter, can I have some revisions? Preliminary is a hearing to determine if the case goes to trial. Voir dire is a session to choose jurors. Proffer is a presentation of evidence that can be presented in trial. Are these correct? So preliminary hearing is if the case is allowed to go forward and eventually get to trial. Doesn't mean it has to go to trial. It's if the judge finds there's probable cause. You're right on voir dire. And a proffer is an offer of proof. It doesn't necessarily get presented at trial. It's usually when a judge says, no, you can't present that, or I'm not sure if you can present it. Basically, give me the gist before I let you put it on, or call the witness or read a deposition so that your offer of what you would enter into evidence gets on the record. So if the judge doesn't let it in, the appellate court has exactly what you would have put on the record. Reese's mom, unanswered question from yesterday. Why does the court have to consider matters most favorable in the light of the state? So on Corey Richins, because of the part of the process it's in. because we're at the preliminary hearing stage. They have to look at it most favorable to the state. All right. Seems like it's happening now. I don't hear any audio yet. I'll pull up another feed just to make sure.
Come to order and be seated, please.
The record reflects that the hearing is taking place outside the presence of the jury panel. The court has marked as Courts Exhibit 27 and 28 notes received from the jury panel. Does the state want to say anything?
No, Your Honor.
The defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, at this time we can bring the jury panel in. You can bring the jury panel.
Yes, ma'am.
Sydney? Yeah, I agree. Why didn't they plant everything? Right? Why'd they plant some stuff and not other? Why does they get rid? But that also works kind of for the defense. Like, why would he get rid of the weapon in the orange vest, not the other stuff? Did he really like those shoes, but he cut them up? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense on either side, honestly. When someone testifies via narrative, are they generally found guilty most of the time? It's not a good sign. I would say yes. I don't know the data on this, but just from the cases I know, I would say yes. Majority of the time, it ends up in a conviction. Peter, are you and your dad going to touch on YSL Woody getting cross-examined at some point? Probably not today. But if you mean by some point, meaning another day, yes, I think we'll probably break that down at some point. I haven't had a lot of questions about it. A ton flooding in about this verdict and Birchmore, though. Which, again, you guys know how it works. That's how we choose our content. Azam, on the Karen Reed trial of Wadir, a witness in the middle of trial, can this also be called a proffer since it's also to make sure the evidence presented by in the presence of the jury? So no, Wadir in trial usually is on a witness's expertise to see if you want to, strike them or make an argument that they shouldn't be able to testify about a certain thing. It is sometimes considered an offer of proof, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same as the evidence comes out. There is some crossover there. I understand how you got that. All right, here we go. Most nerve-wracking time of a trial for a lawyer, for a client, waiting, heart pounding. Life is literally on the line. He's looking at life as if he's convicted. Let's hear what the jury has to say. He's looking right now to see if any of them are making eye contact with him.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
If they're not, it's not a good sign.
Does the state stipulate to the presence of the panel as well as the two alternates? Mr. Jasper?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Juror number 2, have you been selected to be the foreperson?
Yes.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will you please hand the verdict form to Officer Hawks? Okay, the clerk will now read the verdict form out loud. The defendant and his attorneys will stand for the reading of the verdict.
District Court, Clark County, Nevada, State of Nevada, Plaintiff versus Robert Telles, Defendant, case number C-368935, Department number 12, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Robert Telles, as follows. Murder with use of a deadly weapon, victim 60 years of age or older. Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon, victim 60 years of age or older. Special verdict. The jury unanimously finds the murder willful, deliberate, and premeditated. The jury unanimously finds the murder was committed by means of lying in wait. The jury unanimously finds the murder was committed by means of elder abuse. Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. Special verdict. The jury unanimously finds the murder willful, deliberate, premeditated. Do you want me to finish this?
I'm just having the attorneys approach for just a moment.
Thank you, Judge.
Because
So you have your answer. Guilty verdict. No surprise there. I didn't even ask the chat to vote. That's a good point. Usually we do vote before the verdict, but I think I know how it would have gone. I definitely think there would have been the majority. It's never 100% in the chat, but I think it would have been a 90+% guilty vote. So what I'm going to do is I do want to back it up just 1 second real quick.
the two alternates.
And notice something.
state stipulate to the
As he's reading it, he starts shaking his head no. And he's really looking at the jury, trying to make eye contact. To me, it's a bad sign if they're not making eye contact with you. Usually when we win, they're making eye contact with you. In some civil cases with some really great plaintiffs who were really damaged, and some, jurors that really felt like they were doing justice. And at the end of the case, we've even had some head nods and things like that. So he starts shaking his head no before they even say the word guilty. So I think he knew it was coming.
presence of the panel, please will stand.
Park County, Nevada, State of Nevada.
Watch him start
Plaintiff
shaking his
versus
head.
Robert Telles, defendant, case number C 368935, department number 12, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Robert Telles, as follows. Murder with use of a deadly weapon, victim 60 years of age or
You see how he's shaking his head already? He's shaking his head.
older. Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon, victim 60 years of age or older. Special verdict. The jury unanimously finds the murder willful, deliberate, and premeditated. The jury unanimously finds the murder was committed by means of lying in wait. The jury unanimously finds dated this 28th.
So they went up. There may have been an issue on the verdict form. I'm not sure. Let's hear what they read afterwards.
Dated this 28th day of August 2024, signed by foreperson, juror number 2. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are these your verdicts as read? So say you one, so say you all.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the clerk is going to ask you a question and just ask that you respond yes or no.
Juror number 1 is, are these your verdicts as read?
So maybe she called them up there to ask if they want the jury polled, and they said yes. So now they'll ask each individual juror if this is their verdict.
Yes.
Juror number 2, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 3, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 4, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 5, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 6, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 7, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 8, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 10, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 11, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes.
Juror number 12, are these your verdicts as read?
Yes. At this time, the clerk will record the verdict in the official record of the court. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, pursuant to your verdict, we will now go into the penalty phase of the trial. We're going to take a break and allow the attorneys to get prepared for that penalty phase. So we will start again at 1:30. At this time, you'll all be able to be back together again. You're going to go with the court officer back to the jury deliberation room. And at 1:30, we will begin the penalty phase of this trial. Thank you very much, and you're excused.
Thank you, Ron. You're acting jury, please. Jurors, please don't.
So the sound goes off and it goes straight into the penalty phase. They are ready for this. And here he goes. I did not even know there was going to be a penalty phase in this trial. This is one I did not even know what the case was about until the trial started and you guys all pushed in. So we started watched his testimony, watched some of the evidence, watched closing arguments, and he's going into the penalty phase. Somebody said this is not a death penalty case, no death penalty. So maybe they're just going to, yes, it is normal to start the penalty phase right away, but I thought he was just facing life. Nevada does have the death penalty. I don't know that this is a death penalty case, but I do know that they had the special verdict interrogatory that he did this lying in wait. It was elder abuse because of the age of the victim. So all of the exaggerating factors or aggravating factors were on top, and he's going to get whatever the max is. There's no doubt in my mind. He's going to get absolutely whatever the max is, which whether it's life, life without parole, whatever it may be. I didn't think this was a death penalty phase or a trial. Maybe somebody can do some quick research and let me know. I'm not positive about that answer. Crystal B started law classes this week. That's awesome. Is it a death penalty case, Nina? I'm going to have to look that up. I don't know the answer. I did not think it was. Everybody's saying it was, and then other people saying death penalty for sure. Life without parole is his max, is what Northwest said. Okay. Yes, please hit that like button if you guys have not already. Thank you, CBD. Guess the profile of the guy in the car, it wasn't a thing. So good point, PJ. But what I will say is, I think it was a thing they were considering, at least. It didn't win the day, but I think they should consider all the evidence. So I appreciate that if they did. Yikes. More on his body language and behavior tonight at 9:30 p.m. Come check me out. Great catch on Peter. Thank you, Bianca. Do you think his own attorneys believe him? I'm not sure. Okay. It's always hard to tell exactly how that relationship is working and what they discuss with each other. So Tracy said the death penalty was taken off the table. So thank you for letting me know. Yeah. So penalty phase could just mean presenting the evidence and aggravating and mitigating factors in the penalty phase. I have a personal injury question. How can I contact you? Shoot an email, Tammy, to the lawyer you know, not the, just lawyer you know at gmail.com. Lawyer you know at gmail.com. Elif, justice has been served. Jeff German's family, Jeff German, I think I may have said German earlier, loved ones must feel relieved at this moment. I agree. I believe that was his wife or a family member of his that they showed crying at the end. Again, I don't know a ton about this case in the background before it started. I was thrown into it when the trial started, probably like a lot of you guys. Azam, third question. Sentencing phase, after found guilty of the death penalty, the jury will determine whether life in prison or death. Sentencing phase for non-capital punishment is determined by the judge. Yes, for the most part. Some states and jurisdictions do things a little bit differently. Thank you so much, Peter. These are going to be my law jargon with the lawyer you know. Yeah, I would give you an A+ from somebody just jumping into this, learning what all this stuff is about. Oh, crying lady was Rita Reed. Okay. Not his wife. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, jumping in like this. So life without parole, life with parole at 20 or 20 to 50 years is what he's looking at apparently here in Vegas, and followed it closely. You guys are the best. The chat is on point. They are the best. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I know they have it, but it was taken off the table for this case, I guess. Okay. Because I saw he was looking at life. That's really all I saw. Sure. He'll definitely appeal. Now, will he be successful? Not so sure. All right, let me get to the last couple questions here. What are all the shirts on the rack behind you? So it's not lawyer, merch behind me. I don't know how to show it. Here we go. So these are all shirts from around the world. I'm a big golf guy and pickleball guy. And so listeners and watchers from around the world have sent me golf shirts from their home golf clubs or courses near their house. And I hung them up in the back as some decoration. And I wear them from time to time, especially if I need to switch shirts, if I'm like moving furniture in here or doing something, spill something on my shirt, then they're great for that. But yeah, it's from all of you guys from around the world, and I hang them up behind me. Brandy, Peter, how is it determined whether the original jury ends up in the penalty jury and whether it happens immediately or later on? The vast majority happens somewhat immediately, sometimes the next day or after the weekend, and it's almost always the same jury. So different jurisdictions, again, can handle it different ways, and there may be reasons in the interest of justice to do something differently that a lawyer may ask for. So it can be different, but the majority of cases are the same jury and right after, I'll say right after, not necessarily immediately, but usually right after, especially to not waste time. So we'll check out this penalty phase. If you guys are interested in it, then we can check it out together. Thank you, Azam. All right. So that's pretty much it for the Robert Telles verdict. In about 5 minutes, we're going to start our video on Sandra Birchmore. So if you guys have that autoplay button, which it's right here. So if you click that, it says autoplay off. If you click that, it says autoplay on. If you guys have that clicked on for my video, it'll automatically spin you into and redirect you to the Sandra Birchmore live that we're going to go on. I've got to grab my dad, get him into the green room here, then pull him on. And somebody just said this and I was like, what? Robert said, Peter, we need you with Vinny Paulin, special friend Julie Jiki on closing arguments at 8 p.m. on corporate TV. I thought somebody said I was going to be on that. I was like, I don't think I was. I don't remember saying yes to something like that. But okay, so that's all we got. Make sure your autoplay is turned on. It'll automatically redirect you to our Sandra Birchmore case. If you don't know what that case is about, you absolutely want to be there. absolutely want to be there. It is a wild, twisted story that needs attention. This stuff cannot happen. People need to be protected, even sometimes from their own bad decisions, especially when they're minors. So we're going to get into it for sure. I'm going to grab some water. I'm going to be back. My dad's going to be on starting in about 5 minutes. Hit that like button before you leave this stream, please. And then hit the like button when you get to the next one. And of course, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.